So how do we start looking at some of these impacts in a sense is what I'm trying to address in my last few minutes here. Is that one needs to start looking at a broad scale assessment of the resilience of these critical ecosystems to climate change. As I told you that each of these ecosystems not only are relevant for flora and fauna, but also for human society as well. And so for us, it's important that can we think about the resilience of these ecosystems to climate change in the face of the changing temperature and rainfall happening in the last few years. And we don't know how this is going to shape up in the future. So if you actually have some data around it, it becomes helpful. Second is this whole idea about vulnerability assessments in various habitats through empirical evidence and climate modeling data. So there's a lot of work going on today by the climate modelers, the atmospheric scientists. They tell us about how the future trends of rainfall and temperature are likely to be. So it's basically the meteorological department who does a lot of work, and from that it becomes helpful for us to think about what regions of our country might be actually affected in the long run, in the future. And so those kind of vulnerability assessments can be very helpful. In terms of research capacity, and this is where I think basic research is required in terms of understanding how the impacts of climate change actually operate. In India today, there is a lot of things that are not currently happening in terms of basic research. So as I told you all, we are at Symbiosis, we have the Center for Climate Change and Sustainability, where we are actually doing a lot of research, basic level research, to try and understand how climate is actually impacting our water systems, our agriculture, something that I have already explained to you all, in terms of food crops, so that we are not only looking at it from the context of just simply ecosystem, but we also believe that our contribution to society is important here. So we need to start thinking about how can we find ways in which we can build certain adaptation responses. Something that I was telling you that tomorrow maybe I will, in the next couple of sessions, I'll talk about the responses. Mitigation and adaptation responses. So where are the solutions? Options that are available, and just going to leave you with this very small point here about where the solutions are likely to come in from. So some basic ways of looking at it, and I'm going to, while I'm actually sharing some options here, tomorrow and in the day after session, we will actually get into the root cause of the problem. As I told you at the beginning, is that if I am able to identify the cause of the problem, I can find solutions around it. And therefore, the cause of the problem is necessary. Several options are there in terms of the mitigation options, many of them related to industry, energy, transport, our forests, our the way our practices around agriculture, and multiple, and then more importantly, it's also human behavior to a large extent. So I will try and look at these in the context of a little bit more detailing tomorrow and day after, when we can start thinking about how the other side is important. So while on the one hand you have the impacts which are critical, we also need to start thinking about how do we find reasonable, affordable, and more important, realistic solutions around it.